After a recent crossover theory that I felt was more fun than official, I received a ton of complaints that The Incredibles is set in the 1960s. Well, that actually can't be true, and I'm here today to give you a lot of reasons why not. You know, there's this show that I love that looks like it's set in the 60s, but it's actually current day, and that's the Venture Brothers! Go Team Venture! The aesthetics in that series are older to highlight the theme of failure, where Dr. Venture is never able to fill his brilliant father's shoes, so everything from his decor to his mindset is stuck in the 60s. And what is a superhero that can't save people anymore? Oh, a big failure in their mind. Brad Bird, the director of The Incredibles, has stated that he wanted a 60s feel to the movie, but that doesn't automatically mean that the movie is set in that era. I know, there's a newspaper dated for Monday, May 16th, 1962 shown in the movie, but let's just stop and think for a second. In 1962, May 16th fell on a Wednesday. Pixar is not a company that tends to be careless with these kind of details. I mean, it took me less than a minute to look that up with my computer, and the internet isn't exactly new, let alone calendar software that comes with every single computer. So now we have to question, was that newspaper a fake? Remember, the scene where this paper appears is during the time where Mirage is taking note of Mr. Incredible's personal life as Bob Parr, and she isn't quite sure if he is Mr. Incredible, so she needed ways to provoke him into revealing himself. And come on, if Mirage could leave him an exploding tablet, which did not exist in the 60s by the way, she could definitely switch out the morning paper. So with that seed of doubt planted, Syndrome could have manipulated everything in the paper to make Bob feel more helpless, more nostalgic for the good old days, and thereby more likely to expose his powers. Look at the headline of said paper: "Catastrophe seen as crisis looms." Now, doesn't that sound like something that would evoke a lot of emotion in a superhero who didn't want to retire? Bob's home office proves that he never let go of the past, and subtle psychological nudges like a tampered newspaper would make Bob more willing to break the law and accept Syndrome's job offer. So yes, this newspaper is designed to manipulate Bob into picking up his mantle again. If you think I'm Stretch Armstronging here, look at this paper that says Incredible Rescue at Sea. Obviously, by the plot of the story, that paper had to release prior to the one that Mr. Incredible is reading here, because Mr. Incredible is being praised for his heroics. So that means this paper came before 1962, right? Yet, look at it! It's dated September 18th, 2001. Still not satisfied with the evidence? Here's another paper in the background dated Monday, September 16th, 2002. And yes, that date is actually a Monday, so Pixar is paying attention to the nitty-gritty details. Although, I will give you that, while I can make out the 200 part of the date, the last 2 is an assumption that could actually be a 4 or maybe an 8, as in 2004 or 2008. So if 2002 is the oldest for sure date we can see in the movie, and that date applies to the era when supers were allowed to do their jobs, then yeah, 2017 is the closest guesstimate we can get, making The Incredibles actually set 13 years in the future from when the movie was released in 2004, which means The Incredibles 2 taking place in 2018 would have almost no gap in the story between the end of the first and the second movie. Next, let's discuss the house. The movie mentions the government creating the Superhero Relocation Program, or SRP, from here on out. That means that the supers would have been US employees in their heydays, similar to the military, and under the SRP, the government controls all the superheroes and where they live now, which means the government is paying for the family's needs, giving them a house, a car, and whatever else they need to not be heroes any longer. Sort of a mix between a government retirement pension and what the government provides to political refugees. Don't believe me? Listen to Rick for yourself.
Yeah, every time you say those words, it means a month and a half of trouble for me, Bob. It means hundreds of thousands of taxpayers' dollars.
I know.
We gotta pay to keep the company quiet. We gotta pay damages, erase memories, relocate your family. Every time it gets harder. Money, 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 money. We can't keep doing this, Bob. We appreciate what you did in the old days, but those days are over. From now on, you're on your own.
So their house looks 60s style and has a 60s interior because the Parrs didn't pick that house out or decorate it themselves. Take it from me, a former military spouse. When you move a lot, you don't tend to keep a lot, especially not decorative things that you'll need to change at every house. And the Parrs have been bounced all over the country because Bob Parr can't stand not being Mr. Incredible, and Helen is sick of it.
Is this rubble?
It was just a little workout. Just stay loose.
You know how I feel about that, Bob. Darn you, we can't blow cover again.
The building was coming down anyway.
What? You knocked down a building?
It was on fire, structurally unsound. It was coming down anyway.
Tell me you haven't been listening to the police scanner again.
Look, I performed a public service. You act like that's a bad thing.
It is a bad thing, Bob. Uprooting our family again so you can relive the glory days is a very bad thing.
Reliving the glory days is better than acting like they didn't happen.
Yes, they happened. But this, our family, is what's happening now, Bob. And you are missing this.
And look around their home. There aren't a lot of family pictures on the wall. It's tacky, old, quote, art from the 60s. This is not a personalized family home here. What we're looking at, in my opinion, is an old safe house from the Cold War era. Since the Cold War ended and the houses were sitting vacant, it made sense to reuse them for the SRP. But the government being the government, they didn't care about updating the style of the houses, and neither did the Parrs because they're used to being rolling stones. Plus, just look at Bob's job. He's a lackey paper pusher in an insurance agency. That's not a very skilled job, and in 2017, the median salary for that position was under $50,000 a year. Keep in mind that Bob is a bad insurance agent who allows claims to go through, and that he's only had that job for 3 years tops, so Mr. Parr is probably earning closer to $35,000 a year with no promotions in his future. Now, if Bob were single, he'd be doing pretty well for himself at that income level, but with 3 kids and his wife not having a job, that's flirting with the poverty line. So if this movie was set in the 60s, we'd have the same issue that Bob wasn't making tons of money at his job and therefore would not own a brand new home that was just built in the 60s. He'd be living in a turn-of-the-century style farmhouse or something to that effect that was much older because it would be a lot cheaper than a new home in the suburbs. Still not convinced? Listen to Edna.
November 15th of 58.
All was well, another day saved, when his cape snagged on a missile pin.
Thunderhead was not the brightest bulb.
Stratogale, April 23rd, 57. Cape caught in a jet turbine.
But if this is 1962, like that one newspaper said, then that would be impossible because hero work has been banned for the last 15 years. These events would have had to happen in 1947 or earlier if 1962 were an accurate setting. So now that I've debunked the largest issues that scream 60s in the film, let's look at the technology to prove it's actually set somewhere between 2004 and 2017. The teacher shows a VHS tape of Dash, and VHS players didn't exist until 1976. Before that, you had to use an old projector to show a film in school, and there would be no TV carts yet because you had to pull down a projector screen to play those movies. And there was absolutely no secretive way to record the classroom as this teacher did. Maybe a top-level FBI CIA spy could, but certainly not somebody on a teacher's salary in the 60s. Then we have Syndrome's lair. Just looking at a few items, Syndrome has a widescreen, high-definition color TV that's playing live news. So many things are wrong with this alone! The color breakthrough didn't happen on TVs until 1965, and live broadcasts were very difficult to accomplish back then. Go look up old-timey live broadcasts. They're black and white and grainy, not helicopter views and all this insanity here. Even if you argue that Syndrome invented this advanced television set, that wouldn't matter, because the news stations wouldn't be capable of broadcasting high-quality color images in 1962. So even if Syndrome could accept the signal, the station couldn't send it. Then we have vehicles galore that are too far advanced for the 60s, and those snitchy birds? Forget about it! Finally, I'm ending my plethora of evidence with the new preview for The Incredibles 2.
That's not the way you supposed to do it, Dad? They want us to do it this
I don't
way.
know that way. Why would they change math? Math is math. Math is math.
Math is math! This is a rant about Common Core math, and Common Core launched in 2009. That was never a 60s thing. Ultimately, I truly believe that The Incredibles is set with a 60s feel for fun, not for real. The 60s motif is an homage to James Bond and a reflection on superheroes after the golden age of comics, which ended in the 1950s. But the movie is not grounded in that era for so many obvious reasons. And while I don't mind the people who pointed out the discrepancy, I would like to say booyah to all those who commented with hefty attitudes as if I don't know what I'm doing. It might not be reality, but theories are more fun, or in this case, I just proved my case. Mic drop, boom. Well, that's all I have for now, but this video's not quite over yet. I get a lot of comments that say, do a theory on this topic, but I've already done those theories. So please consider going to my main channel page and clicking on the video tab so that way you can see everything I've done. You will probably find a lot of things you like that you never even knew that I posted. I want to let you know that I also have 2 other channels, Say Halo Goodbye Gaming and the Fanily Family Vlogs. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed enough to hit subscribe and share. I can use all the help I can get to let other people know that this channel exists. And if you made it this far, leave me a comment that says something like, hey, I made it to the end. And then let me know what kind of videos you want to see in the future. I can't make any promises, but the more people that request something, the more I can look into it. Okay, well, I love you. I'll see you in the next video.